Welcome back to Superbly Said Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
Yes, welcome back, everyone.
And I just want to mention right up top, today's material is actually drawn straight from a SpeakDuo lesson. So if you haven't checked it out, you can go to SpeakDuo.com to meet new people from around the world who are practicing English on video calls, just to become more confident with their speaking abilities.
It's a fantastic resource, and our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's laser-focused today. This is strictly for advanced English learners.
Exactly. No beginner stuff here.
Right. We are jumping straight into 12 crucial phrasal verbs used in complex professional and personal situations. We're going to look at how these words manipulate power dynamics, basically, to give you that native boardroom-level fluency.
I love that. Boardroom fluency.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this logically. Think about how a company or even just an individual actually processes choices. It's like a funnel, right? You start at the top with this wide array of options, and to get to the core strategy, you have to systematically eliminate things, delay things, and just reduce the noise.
Yep, that's exactly how it works.
So let's talk about killing an option. The phrase here is rule out.
Right, so to rule out something means to completely eliminate a possibility. But the mechanism behind it is, well, it's what makes it so powerful for advanced learners.
How so? Like, what's the nuance there?
So native speakers use rule out to sound entirely objective. It's almost like a linguistic shield. I mean, if you say to your team, I reject your idea, it sounds super personal, right?
Oh, yeah, it sounds emotional, like you're attacking them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you say, we had to rule it out, you are basically blaming the data. It implies this systematic logical process where you check the facts, and the facts made the decision for you.
Okay, so if I just immediately hate an idea someone pitches, I wouldn't say I ruled it out.
Correct. No, ruling it out requires the appearance of investigation. You are crossing a suspect off the list because they have an alibi,
Gotcha.
For instance, in a meeting with your boss about, say, a failed project, you'd say something like, after checking the facts, we ruled out the original theory as impossible. You're showing you did the work.
That makes so much sense. It takes the target off your back. And, if you were taking the IELTS speaking test, specifically part 2, where you have to tell a story about a difficult choice.
Oh, it's perfect for that.
Right. You could use this to show analytical thinking. You could say, I ruled out one job offer because the commute was too long, even though the salary was good.
Spot on.
Yeah.
It demonstrates a highly calculated mind to the examiner.
So we've talked about eliminating options completely, but what if the option isn't totally dead?
What do you mean?
Like, what if we just need to manage its exit from the company? How do we wind it down? Okay. That requires our second phrase, which is phase out. To phase out something means to gradually stop using or providing it. The core concept here is preventing a shock to the system.
Right. It's the difference between, like, dropping a piano out of a window versus slowly carrying it down the stairs.
I love that analogy, yes.
You aren't just shutting off the power, you are slowly turning down a dimmer dial.
Exactly. Because if management simply stops a software program overnight, chaos erupts. Everyone panics.
Oh, for sure.
Instead, they announce the company will phase out the old model over 2 years. It manages expectations, right? It gives the team time to adapt without any panic.
And you could use this for a personal habit, too. Perhaps for another IELTS response about lifestyle changes, it shows real maturity to say, I'm trying to phase out late-night screen time to sleep better.
Yep.
Because you aren't pretending you can just quit instantly. You're engineering a gradual reduction. Which brings us to a slightly different scenario. Because what if the idea is good, but the timing is just wrong? You don't want to rule it out, and you certainly don't want to phase it out.
Wait, I'm confused. How is phasing out different from just delaying it? If I delay a new product launch, am I phasing it out?
No, not at all. Because phasing out implies the thing is already running and you are slowly turning it off.
Oh, okay.
If you haven't started yet, you just want to put a pin in the idea. You use our third phrase, hold off on something is to intentionally delay taking action. But you keep the intent to act very much alive.
I see. It's like waiting for the rain to stop before you paint the house.
Yeah.
The house is still getting painted, just, not today.
Yes, perfect. So at work, you tell your team, we decided to hold off on launching until the software was stable.
Right.
And notice how it differs from canceling. Canceling kills the momentum entirely. Holding off preserves the momentum for a better environment.
Got it. And in everyday conversation or like an IELTS test discussing financial prudence, you could say, I had to hold off on buying new furniture until I saved more money.
Exactly. So we've filtered the bad ideas, we've wound down the obsolete ones, and delayed the premature ones. Now we're at the very bottom of that decision-making funnel. The ultimate reduction. The phrase here is boil down to.
Oh, boil down to. I love the culinary metaphor built into this one.
Right.
It's like making a rich sauce. You literally boil away all the excess water for hours until you are left with just this intense, thick flavor at the bottom of the pan. All that water is just noise. The reduction is the truth.
That is exactly how it functions. To boil down to something means to identify the fundamental root cause of a complex situation. And please, for our listeners, do not confuse this with simply summarizing.
Yeah, summarizing is just making a long story shorter.
Right. Boiling down to is extracting the absolute core driver. So in a corporate postmortem, if a massive, complicated merger fails, you don't just summarize a timeline, you find the core issue.
You'd say something like, after a long discussion, the issue boiled down to a lack of trust between teams.
Exactly. Everything else was just a symptom of that one root cause.
And if you were asked a philosophical question in an interview, maybe about your career motivation, you can bypass the daily tasks and just say, for me, my job boils down to making people's lives easier and solving practical problems.
Yes, it proves you understand your own foundational purpose. It's very advanced.
Okay, so the funnel is clear. Decisions are made. But as we all know, once you make a plan, reality steps in and completely ruins it.
Always.
So let's transition to managing chaos, conflict, and setbacks. When plans meet reality, there is always friction. How do we describe fixing those messes? Let's start with the minor stuff. Iron out.
Right. So iron out means to resolve a problem or finalize small details. But the nuance here is critical. You absolutely do not use iron out for a catastrophic crisis.
Right, you don't iron out a bankruptcy.
Exactly. You use it when a framework is like 95% complete, but there are still minor wrinkles.
It's like sanding a piece of wood. The table is already built, the structure is totally solid, you're just removing the little splinters so nobody gets hurt when they touch it.
Yep.
So in a business negotiation, you'd say, the partners met to iron out the final points in the agreement. The heavy lifting is totally done.
And if you're describing how you handle workplace friction in an IELTS response about teamwork, you could explain, I try to stay calm and suggest a clear plan. Talking it through usually irons things out with coworkers. It paints you as a mature, low-drama professional who handles minor issues smoothly.
But what if the table actually breaks? Like, what if the problem isn't a splinter, but the whole plan completely collapses?
Well, that brings us to our next phrase, fall through.
Fall through.
When a plan or a deal falls through, it fails to happen. But pay close attention to the psychology of this phrase. When you say something fell through, it strongly implies that external circumstances broke down, rather than personal incompetence.
Oh, wow. I love that. So it's actually a strategic way of externalizing the failure.
Precisely. You don't walk into your boss's office and say, I failed to secure the meeting. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, you'd say, a meeting fell through last month, so we used the time to prepare a stronger proposal.
Yes. It shifts the narrative completely away from personal blame. The foundational support just vanished.
Like standing on a floorboard that literally gives way beneath you. It's not your fault. Gravity exists.
Right.
And socially, it works the exact same way. Our weekend plans fell through when most people had to work. No one is to blame. The schedules just didn't align.
Now, sometimes there is conflict where voices are raised and people are genuinely upset. But eventually, the tension just evaporates. That's our next phrase, blow over.
Oh, I picture a massive thunderstorm. You just hide inside, the wind is howling, but eventually it passes and the sun comes out like nothing happened.
That weather analogy is exactly why the phrase exists. To blow over means a situation fades away without creating any lasting consequences. It is very different from a problem being formally solved through mediation.
It just kind of runs out of energy.
Exactly. So if your workplace gets incredibly stressful on a Tuesday, you could say, after a tense day, the argument blew over and everyone returned to work. No HR reports were filed. It just dissipated.
And for a personal example, you could say, a disagreement with the neighbor blew over after we apologized and talked it out. The landscape of the relationship wasn't permanently damaged.
The storm passes, yes. But usually, that chaos leaves you behind schedule.
Right.
Which leads us to catch up on.
Right. Catch up on means completing a neglected task or getting updated on information you missed. And you have to differentiate this from simply doing a task.
Right, exactly. You can only catch up on something if there is a pre-existing deficit. You are operating from behind the baseline.
It's like running a race, tripping, and realizing the pack is 50 yards ahead of you. You have to sprint just to get back to the middle of the group. So on a Monday morning, you might say to your boss, I spent Sunday catching up on emails and household chores.
Because those chores had been piling up during the week.
Oh.
And an excellent IELTS response about free time would be, I catch up on reading, reply to messages, and visit a friend I haven't seen in a while. It conveys that your baseline life is highly active, and you use free time to basically restore equilibrium.
All right, let's connect all of this to the actual individuals involved. We've navigated the decisions and the chaos, but how do we verbally manage people and our understanding of them? Let's look at single someone out.
So, to single someone out means to isolate one person from a larger group for special attention. And look, choosing someone can be entirely neutral, but singling out carries heavy emotional weight. You are pulling them away from the safety of the herd.
It's the metaphorical spotlight, and a spotlight can feel wonderfully warm, or it can feel like a terrifying police interrogation.
Yes.
Like on the positive side, the teacher singled out a student for excellent improvement on the project. That feels great.
But acknowledging the pressure of that spotlight shows deep self-awareness, like saying, I was singled out to lead a short presentation, which was scary but helped my confidence.
Now, what if you need that person in the spotlight to do something they are resisting? You don't have the authority to force them, so you have to use persuasion. You need to talk someone into something.
The core nuance here is that talking someone into an action relies purely on verbal charm and logic to overcome hesitation. It is the exact opposite of ordering someone. You are guiding their will.
It's almost like inception. You plant a little seed in their mind, water it with good arguments until they think the action was their idea all along.
Very true.
You could say, I talked my cousin into trying a new coffee shop and they ended up loving it. Or for the IELTS exam, I talked my friend into joining the weekend hike even though they hesitated at first.
But as we know, persuasion doesn't always hold forever. Sometimes people agree under the charm of the moment, but when the actual work arrives, they vanish. This is backing out of something.
The broken promise. It's incredibly frustrating.
It is. Mostly because of the social weight. You have to recognize the difference between declining and backing out of. You decline an invitation up front, cleanly. You only back out of something if you have already given your word and established an expectation.
It's like putting your car in reverse after you've already pulled into a busy intersection. It causes a massive traffic jam for everyone behind you.
Yes.
At work, destroys timelines. He backed out of the event at the last minute, leaving others to cover his tasks.
It creates a domino effect. And in an IELTS scenario about overcoming a challenge, you could really leverage this. A teammate backed out of a group project, so I had to take on extra work to finish it. It shows you understand complex social commitments and resilience.
Which brings us to our final phrase. The person backed out, the project fell through. Now you have to do the autopsy and figure out why. You have to piece something together.
To piece something together is the deliberate, often slow process of connecting scattered facts to form a complete picture. It is the absolute opposite of a sudden aha moment of inspiration. It requires logic, evidence, and assembly.
You are literally building a jigsaw puzzle, but someone threw away the box, so you don't even know what the final picture is supposed to look like.
Exactly.
You find two edge pieces, then a corner, and slowly the truth appears. From the messages and receipts, she pieced together what had happened that night.
And in a technical context, I pieced together why my laptop was slow by checking which apps were using the most memory. You followed the clues.
Incredible. That is 12 boardroom-level phrasal verbs. But, just listening passively isn't going to build fluency. So let's put this into practice.
Let's do it.
We're going to run through some rapid-fire scenarios. Listeners, try to spot the one that sounds like native professional English. I'll read the question and 3 options. Then I'll give you a moment to pause the audio so you can lock in your answer. And don't worry, every option you hear is a grammatically correct sentence today. We just need you to identify the correct context. Ready? Here we go.
Good luck.
Question 1. Which sentence uses the phrasal verb rule out correctly based on context?
The newly appointed structural measurement supervisor carefully used a long wooden rule out.
The deeply frustrated young retail clerk aggressively managed to completely clear a white space.
After thoroughly reviewing the alternative operational strategies, management decided to rule out. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
So if you guessed option C, you nailed it. Rule out. Remember, This is about systematically eliminating an option after a logical review. Rule out.
Exactly. Just like using logic to rule out that job offer because the commute was too long. All right. Question 2. Select the context where the phrasal verb iron out is most appropriately used figuratively.
The international legal team scheduled an urgent morning conference to iron out the final clauses.
The commercial laundry assistant carefully utilized a massive steam machine to iron out those shirts.
The incredibly clumsy warehouse inventory clerk accidentally managed to quickly buy some large wire. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
Option A is the winner on this one. Iron out. You are smoothing the minor final details of a mostly finished plan. Iron out.
Right, like sanding the wood on those final points in the partnership agreement. Question 3. In which situation does an organization accurately utilize the phrasal verb phase out?
The architectural engineering team carefully designed a brand new physical structure, phase out.
To minimize computational overhead, our technology department will gradually phase out legacy database protocols.
The completely terrified young wilderness traveler unexpectedly noticed an exceptionally massive, heavy wood chest. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
You're looking for option B here, phase out. It acts as a gradual strategic reduction to avoid system shock. Phase out.
Just like slowly trying to phase out your late night screen time. Okay, question 4. Which response best demonstrates the advanced phrasal verb fall through figuratively?
Our highly anticipated international marketing localization deal unfortunately managed to fall through yesterday.
Because the safety floorboards were severely damaged, the heavy industrial storage crates fell through.
The incredibly clumsy warehouse inventory clerk accidentally managed to quickly catch that white balance. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
Option A is correct. Fall through. Remember, this externalizes the blame when a deal collapses. Fall through.
Exactly. The floor gave way like those weekend plans falling through because of work schedules. Moving on, question 5. How would a professional accurately use the phrasal verb hold off on contextually?
The security enforcement personnel explicitly commanded the crowd to physically hold off on tracking fences.
The completely confused amateur theater group unexpectedly decided to proudly paint a clean level.
Given the current global market volatility, we must definitely hold off on executing major mergers. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct choice is option C. Hold off on. You are intentionally delaying the action but keeping the plan alive. Hold off on.
Yet the timing is just wrong. Like holding off on buying new furniture until you save up. Question 6. Which scenario perfectly illustrates the meaning of the phrasal verb blow over figuratively?
The localized autumn windstorm was so exceptionally strong it caused those loose building signs blow over.
Management confidently expected that the temporary social media public relations crisis would quickly blow over.
The incredibly clumsy hotel maintenance worker accidentally managed to completely drop that red cover. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
If you went with option B, you're right. Blow over. You wait for the crisis to fade without lasting damage. Blow over.
Just waiting out the storm, like that loud argument with the neighbor that naturally blew over. Okay, question 7. Which sentence accurately utilizes the phrasal verb back out of figuratively?
Because their operational costs escalated significantly, the primary investors chose to back out of the agreement.
The delivery driver carefully put the massive commercial transport vehicle in reverse to back out of garages.
The deeply confused young kitchen assistant accidentally managed to quickly slice a fresh brunch of father. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
Option A is the answer. Back out of. This carries heavy social weight because you withdraw from a commitment you already made. Back out of.
The ultimate traffic jam, like that frustrating teammate backing out of the group project at the last second. And finally, question 8. Which of the following statements correctly uses piece together figuratively?
The apprentice tailoring assistant meticulously used high-quality structural fabric to stitch each individual piece together.
By analyzing minor code exceptions, our quality assurance professional managed to beautifully piece together the bug origin.
The completely confused amateur artist unexpectedly managed to beautifully paint a giant yellow weather. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer.
Option B takes it.
Yeah.
Piece together. You are acting as a detective, gradually connecting scattered facts. Piece together.
Right. Building the puzzle. Exactly like checking which apps are using memory to piece together why your laptop is running slowly.
And that actually brings us to the end of our analysis. But before you step back into your day,
I really want to leave you with a final challenge to mull over. Think about the last conflict or misunderstanding you experienced, whether it was in a corporate boardroom or at your own kitchen table. Really picture the dynamics of that room. Now, which of today's advanced phrasal verbs perfectly describes how that situation was ultimately resolved? Did the tension simply blow over? Did you have to sit down and iron it out? Or did someone back out entirely, forcing you to piece together a new plan? Applying these mechanisms to your own lived experience, well, that is the true secret to